the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Are you single, dating or discerning if marriage is even the path that God has for you? This is a topic that really hit home for this former sports reporter because I was there once, discerning whether I was to be married, to be single, or maybe even if the Lord was calling me to the priesthood. But the good Lord had his plan, and I would eventually meet my wife in the back of church at St. John Canches in Chicago. So you never know what God has in store on any given day. What a surprise. The reality is that figuring out what the Lord wants you to do with your life is always a journey. It's always a challenge. And it's a challenge to trust and accept God's plan, to trust in the Lord. Joining us live this morning is licensed marriage and family therapist Elisabeth Busby, the content specialist for the Theology of the Body Institute, to share some practical insights on discerning single life. Elisabeth has a master's degree in theology and another one in counseling, and she's also a wife and a mother of 3 children. Good morning, Elisabeth. Thanks so much for joining us. It is good to be with you once again.
Good morning. It is such a joy to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, like I said, this is a topic that really hits home, and I'm sure there's some young people out there listening who are, their ears are perking up to our discussion here this morning.
I bet so. It is definitely something that people are thinking about on a regular basis. And so when the church speaks into it, I think people feel so seen and so loved by the Father. So it's such a gift to get to do this work.
All right. For those folks out there who are single, if you listen to the world, if you listen to our culture, they're telling you to just jump into a relationship. Is that where we should start?
Oh, absolutely not.
I'm being the devil's advocate there.
Sometimes a bold reaction is helpful. Yeah. So I think that we have often seen in this culture that dating has become almost like a new hobby or like a preferred mode of leisure, to be in a committed relationship with someone and to have that person just in your life, to do life with, etc. And in doing so, we have lost the reality that dating is actually a discernment of marriage. It is serious business. What I always say is that when you get into a committed relationship, there are only 2 ways out of it: marriage or a breakup. And breakups are terrible. Like, no one would get into a situation where they knew they were setting themselves up for intense emotional pain. And yet the way that people often pursue their single life is, how can I get into another relationship as soon as possible to end this singleness without actually thinking through the consequences of that? Man, it takes courage. It takes courage.
And breaking up is, like the song, hard to do. People suffer tremendous pain when they break up and they're single, especially if they're not living a life worthy of the gospel, and maybe they're living with somebody, they're doing the so-called friends with benefits thing.
Oh, so heartbreaking. They're looking for the same kind of love we all are, but they're looking in the wrong places, and they are setting themselves up for even more devastation. Absolutely. I love that, not living a life in accordance with the gospel. That's well said.
Without a doubt. Where do you find most people get discouraged when they're looking for a spouse and they feel like God is not hearing their prayers? And what can they do to find that right person that the Lord may be calling them to marry? I like I said at the top, I know exactly what that feels like, because there were times when I thought I'd never meet my wife, and then one day I met her when I least expected it.
Your story is honestly one of my favorites, because it really does show that you can wake up one morning having no idea, what the Lord has for you, and go to sleep that night with this incredible, joyful hope, having met this person that ends up changing the rest of your life. I love your story so much.
My wife tells it much better, actually. Elizabeth, believe me, she tells it in very entertaining fashion about how we met at the back of church one day with the father running away in quiet desperation because he had to do the next mass. He's like, "Here, talk to Cindy."
I would love the opportunity to hear more about that. I love stories like that, and I think they inspire so much hope. So going back to your original question, I think one of the things is stay in communion with the Lord. And it seems like maybe the opposite of what someone wants to do when they're wanting to go out and find someone to date. But the reality is, if you're not prepared for whenever the Lord wants to move, then you're going to miss it, right? If your heart had not been oriented toward doing the Lord's will, toward being satisfied with God, toward even looking for maybe something delightful that he has for you, you may have missed it. You may have not seen, it may have just been like a random day where the priest introduced you to this random person. Your heart may not have been able to be lit on fire like it would have been when you met your bride. So number one, really work to cultivate that hope in the Lord. And then number two, be intentional about seeking out opportunities for people who have similar values. So obviously you have the kind of low-hanging fruit of like going to church, going to daily mass, going to church like you did, meeting somebody, but also there are incredible opportunities popping up. I, over the years of my career, have heard so many people feel so hopeless about finding someone that's a good fit. And this is the Jubilee of Hope. And so we feel like the Lord wants to light Jubilee hope in the hearts of people who are discerning marriage.
It sounds beautiful. At what point should someone really start to discern that maybe the good Lord is calling them to remain single, which would obviously, if they're going to be single, that means they got to be chaste?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. The Lord wants your happiness. He is not just going to ask you to do something that's going to make you miserable forever. So that's a really important thing to remember is the Father loves you. And so he's not going to just invite you into a vocation that's going to make you miserable forever. So first of all, it's important to remember that. Second of all, it's important to remember that a vocation involves an irrevocable gift of self, meaning that you take some sort of a vow that you can't just take back. And so if you are called to a chaste single life, it would be in the context of a vow that is irrevocable. You can't take it back. And I think one of the ways that the Lord could put that on your heart is if you have a desire to pour yourself into something that would be challenging to do when you're married. So for example, this is my favorite example. We have a person on our staff at the TOB Institute who is a consecrated virgin, which is it is a unique vocation as opposed to private vows that maybe someone else called to the chaste single life would take. But she is a consecrated virgin and she spent 14 years pouring herself into the programming that we have at the Theology of the Body Institute. And she made it what it is today. I am convinced that the Institute would not be as fruitful as it is without her being able to give of herself so deeply. My husband and I stepped into the role that she had previously been in, and we're a young married couple, and we welcomed a child while we were in this role. We had 3 young kids, and it was so intense. And I remember thinking, how on earth did Jen get so much done? And she was like, well, it's because I didn't have babies. So it allows the chaste single life and consecrated virginity and things like that allow for pouring into careers in a way that you're just not able to do when you're called to marriage because your spouse and your kiddos really have a right to your time. So that's another way, like medical professionals, lawyers, people like that who really want to pour themselves into their careers in a way that doing so with a family would not be as fruitful. That's another way to discern it if you have something like that on your heart.
Elisabeth, I've often wondered about consecrated virgins and why they wouldn't just go all the way and become a Dominican or a Carmelite or a Franciscan.
So they have such an incredible intimacy with the Lord as their bridegroom. Of course, all of us are called to have a relationship with the Lord like that, a spousal relationship with the Lord. John Paul II really fleshed that out for us. And also, women who are called to any sort of order, like Dominicans and Carmelites and all of those things, have a unique spirituality in the way that they are living out their relationship with Christ, the bridegroom. But consecrated virgins who are in the world have that incredible dependence and intimacy with the bridegroom, and it allows them to stay in the world and bring that light of Christ into the world in a way that women who are in orders aren't able to do because they remove themselves from the world so that they have intimacy with the Lord. But the consecrated virgins stay in the world and bring the light of Christ in a very powerful way to the normal, ordinary things, right? This woman held the job position that my husband and I held after her. She was literally just in the world, but she did it from this incredible space of fruitfulness. And every consecrated virgin that I have ever met has the most joyful spirituality. It stirs in me a deep longing for more intimacy with the Lord. And they feel accessible in a different way than sisters feel because, the sisters are in the habit and they're living the rules that they have. And it just looks so different. But encountering a woman who's living that radical spousal union with Christ in the world, it just lights my heart on fire. It's incredible. So it's a unique, distinct vocation from women who are called to orders.
I appreciate that perspective that you just shared for sure. What are some of the questions that someone should ask themselves to really find out in their heart if they are called to a chaste single life?
My head are one, do I know who the Father is and how he loves me? If you don't believe your belovedness, then you're just going to feel completely rejected. If you want to get married and aren't called to marriage, even if you're called to an order, right? Religious life, or if you're a man and you're called to the priesthood, you could feel so rejected. Like, I want marriage, but I'm not good enough for it, or God doesn't love me enough to give it to me. So the first question is, do I know who the Father is? And do I believe my own belovedness in him? Because that is what's going to make you free, to be able to find joy in whatever he has for you. And the second thing is, what do I want? Because the Lord speaks to us through our desires. If we're in a state of grace, if we're close to him with our prayer life, with the sacraments, St. Augustine said, love and then do what you will. If we are in a relationship of love with the Father, we can trust to some extent with the guidance of trusted people, spiritual directors, priests, confessors. We can trust that what I want is leading me to what God wants for me. And it's amazing how those two questions will liberate you to explore so many different options beyond just, I'm going to work this career, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have 3 kids, right? It's like life with Christ is a wonderful adventure, and he is not held in a box. But if we don't know who he is, and we don't know who we are in him, and we don't trust the way that he has ordered our hearts to seek after him, it's going to be so hard to find it. So those are my 2.
And as Catholics, obviously, we have access to our Lord in a special way in Eucharistic adoration. So if we have any doubts as to what he wants us to do, if we just spend some time alone, just you and him, listening to the Lord, I believe that would be a great way to discern and try to hear the voice of the Lord in silence, in the quiet of our hearts, because with all the noise out there, it's pretty hard to discern what you're called to do.
That is so well said. The practical things are really helpful. So yes, when you're single, your time really is your own. So making a holy hour every day, finding a chapel that has the Eucharist there so that you can pray in that silence, like you just said, but also going to daily mass every day, going to confession once a month, like praying at a minimum, being able to pray through your day and orienting your day around prayer instead of orienting your day around work, right? Like I wake up around my work schedule, I go to sleep around my work schedule. No, switch it. Wake up and go to sleep around your prayer schedule, and then work will fit in around it. And that is an incredible way. I love that you said that. That's an incredible practical way to make sure that you're able to hear the voice of the Lord.
And don't underestimate the value of a spiritual advisor to help you along the way, especially maybe a really wisdom-filled priest. I was blessed to get some advice by a bishop at the time when I was discerning what the Lord wanted me to do. Today, I've actually had the opportunity to say thank you to Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller, the Archbishop of San Antonio, because he's the one who said to me, John, don't leave Relevant Radio or do something crazy. Just wait on the Lord, and He'll tell you what to do. And that weekend, I reconnected with my wife. She had given me her card. I never called her because I was discerning the priesthood at the time. And we reconnected. In a year and a half later, Father Rocky would be marrying us. So there's more to the story.
Love it. Yes, if you can find a spiritual director or a trusted priest or even a confessor, you go to the same priest every time so that they can kind of start getting to know your heart. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know that you have a number of resources for those who are discerning marriage or single life. Where can our listeners go to get more educated, informed, and inspired?
The tobinstitute.org website. And then our Fresh Start Conference. If you're single or if your kid or grandkid is single, we're going to be offering the ability to give them gift cards under the Christmas tree, because you can give your kid hope for Christmas and they can come to Fresh Start in January.
Really appreciate you being with us. It's been a joy, Elisabeth. A lot of really good practical insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you too. Elisabeth Busby, licensed marriage and family therapist and content specialist for the Theology of the Body Institute. Like what you just heard? Share it with your family and friends. And thanks for listening.